Welcome to this module entitled Assessing On-Farm Produce Safety Risk Post-Harvest Handling. This module is part of a series to assist you in creating a food safety program and preparing you for a gap audit. These videos are based off of a series of 7 fact sheets available through Virginia Cooperative Extension. Today, we will be discussing the 7th step of developing a food safety program, addressing the post-harvest handling stage of your operation. Post-harvest handling includes all steps once the produce is harvested and subsequently brought to a packing house area. As we have discussed previously, every farm is different, so there is not a one-size-fits-all when considering food safety risk and practices. Specific handling steps will differ depending on crop types and best handling guidelines, as well as your unique post-harvest infrastructure. Infrastructure includes both fixed, permanent facilities and movable vehicles, equipment, tools, and consumables. There can be a wide array of building, wash areas, plumbing, food contact surfaces, chilling, and cold storage. Permanent post-harvest facilities and components can be costly, so some farms will retrofit what is already there. In other cases, new facilities will be constructed. Whether old or new, the design of a facility greatly affects food safety. All structures should be constructed in a manner that allows them to be properly cleaned and sanitized and does not harbor any contaminants or pests. Adequate lighting must be provided in all areas of the facilities in which any lights above product wash, pack, and storage areas are shielded with covers or protective sleeves. Safeguards should be in place to prevent cross-contamination. Like fixed facilities, equipment, tools, vehicles, and food contact surfaces of any movable sorting tables should be in good working condition. Equipment and tools should be labeled or easily identified for their specific use. Cleaners, sanitizers, and other agricultural chemicals used in the post-harvest environment must be stored in such a way as to prevent cross-contamination. There are 5 general steps for the post-harvest handling stage. For each of these steps, there must be policies, protocols, and practices to mitigate any potential food safety risk and records to document activities and overall compliance. It is important to also consider food quality issues, since how and what is done at the harvest and post-harvest stages greatly impact the overall quality and shelf life of the produce. Let's look at each of the 5 steps. The first step is receiving harvested product. Any product coming from production areas needs to be identified with a field traceback code, since that information is needed during the packaging and traceability step. Unlike field packed product that is packed in the field and directly transported off farm, produce brought to a post-harvest handling area will need further handling steps, such as pre-cooling, sorting, washing, and/or drying. This requires understanding each crop and its specific packing needs to ensure quality and safety. Pre-cooling is when field heat is removed from the crop. Methods of pre-cooling include ice cooling, forced air cooling, hydrocooling, and room cooling. While not all crops require pre-cooling, like beans, basil, and sweet potatoes, there are many crops where it is critical to pre-cool, such as berries, peppers, tomatoes, beans, and many others. It is important to remember the crop is still alive and continues to respire, so removing field heat is very important. Sorting includes inspecting produce for any foreign material, dirt, and debris, and culling poor quality or damaged produce. It also includes grading for size and other characteristics. This handling step may occur without any wash steps or simultaneously with the washing and/or drying process. Washing and drying depends on the crop and also on what infrastructure you have available. With some produce, a dry roller brush line assembly may be enough, whereas other produce may require washing. When wash water is used, it is critical that an assessment of the washing process is conducted. The assessment should consider the crops being washed, the type of wash systems being used, the microbial quality of the wash water, and the type of sanitizer to be added to the wash water. With some crops like berries, water should not be used since it will degrade quality and lead to spoilage. In contrast, other crops need washing for cleaning and maintaining freshness and moisture content. Additionally, some crops like tomatoes, apples, and melons are susceptible to infiltration when the water temperature and produce pulp temperature are 10 degrees Fahrenheit or more. Understanding crop characteristics is always important when thinking about the impact of water on the crop at the post-harvest handling stage. There are different wash systems, so it is important to understand how each system works so specific cross-contamination risk and hazards can be addressed. All post-harvest water used must meet microbial standards of zero generic E. coli, and surface water should never be used for this stage. Sanitizer should always be used with wash systems, making sure to follow labeled rates, usage, handling, storage, and disposal directions. When monitoring the wash process, you should document the type of sanitizer used, concentrations in the wash water, water pH, water temperature, produce pulp temperature, and turbidity. There is overlap between the handling steps and the next main step of packaging and labeling the produce with traceability codes. Packaging will look different for each operation and will depend on the specific market where the product is going, how the buyer wants to receive the product, as well as the best ways to pack, store, and transport the specific produce to reduce food safety hazards and maintain quality. No matter what kind of packaging is used, all disposable materials should be new single-use products, and reusable bins should be clean and sanitized before packing. Materials should also be stored off the floor to prevent contamination from pests and kept in an enclosed building or facility to protect from dirt and other contaminants. All packaged produce must be labeled to facilitate traceability back to the farm once the produce is sold. Product labels should contain the full traceability code, also known as the lot number, along with the name of the farm, since a code used alone is meaningless if it cannot be linked back to a specific farm. Again, your traceability labeling will depend on the market. Make sure the lot code is also designated on any invoices when produce is sold, since this will provide documentation as to the buyers and the lots sold. Once your traceability system is set up, it is very important to test your system annually and make sure it is effective. This test is called a trace exercise or mock recall and is typically done before the season's audit. When conducting the trace exercise, make sure the buyer understands it is a mock exercise and not a real recall. The next main step is storing the packaged produce under optimal temperature and humidity conditions until the product is transported. Proper handling during storage is important to maintain quality and prevent any food safety issues. Cooling equipment should be functioning properly. Temperature should be monitored, and vinyl strip curtains, door and window seals, and condensers all well maintained to prevent cross-contamination. Meat and other non-produce items should never be stored in coolers used for storing produce. The final post-harvest handling step is transporting the finished product. It is important that all equipment used to transport or move produce be inspected and kept clean, free of debris, and in working order. This can include pallet jacks, forklifts, and vehicles used for transport. If using a refrigerated vehicle, it should be inspected prior to use, making sure it is clean, free of odors, and pre-cooled to maintain optimal temperatures. To minimize contamination and food safety concerns during post-harvest handling, it is very important to have written standards as part of your food safety plan. Written standards should include policies, operating procedures, corrective actions, and record-keeping logs, which address post-harvest handling processes and related infrastructure. Standards should address maintenance, cleaning, and sanitation, since pathogenic organisms can survive in packing areas, equipment, and surfaces, and on products brought into the packing facility. All equipment, tools, and facilities should be regularly cleaned and maintained on a regular basis, making sure to document all actions. The potential for cross-contaminating produce with allergen risk should be assessed. If you are processing or packing any of the allergens like milk, eggs, fish, shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, soybeans, or sesame seeds, a risk assessment should be conducted to determine needed procedures and ways to segregate allergens during storage, transportation, and handling. Post-harvest areas in and around packing facilities should also be assessed and monitored for pest hotspots. Control strategies and preventive measures should be used, making sure workers are trained to recognize and monitor pest and animal intrusion. The facility grounds should be kept free of litter, debris, and standing water to discourage breeding, harboring, and feeding of pests. You have now completed this module. There are some important steps you should complete before moving on to the next module. You will want to make sure you review the post-harvest fact sheet found on the course site or on the Virginia Cooperative Extension website. There you will find more in-depth information on the topics we covered in this module, along with supporting resources and documents. You will also find a checklist at the end of the fact sheet that will help you implement the topics covered in this module. Completing the checklist will help you prepare for the requirements of a gap audit. Once you have completed these steps, you should be ready to move on to the next module in this series, Assessing On-Farm Produce Safety Risk, the GAP Audit Process.